Afternoon, Cherries fans. Welcome to Cherries Red Army YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. We woke up this morning with an FA Cup dream. Within 45 minutes, it was tarnished and all over. Southampton beat Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium 3-0. And maybe now we focus on the playoffs. The game was evenly balanced early on. A VAR would come in handy, and maybe we thought it was going to be our day. The clinical side of Southampton came through, and a devastating goal just before half-time probably sealed our fate. Came out in the second half, quite positive, but we just couldn't get back in the game and make it a bit of a tight affair, getting it to 2-1. Southampton would go on, get a third, and they would move on into the semi-finals, and Jonathan Woodgate's AFC Bournemouth now have a break due to internationals and focus on the playoffs on the 1st of April. We have some live guest fan reaction coming. They are selected on this occasion, and there is a reason for that. So going to get some on now, but if you would like to like this video, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, please do, or you can comment throughout the show and we'll show as many on the screen as possible. Mods at the ready if you're in the chat, please. Let's get our first couple of guests on, then we'll get a young American cherry on first, and that's Daniel. How you doing, Daniel?
Sorry, yeah, I'm doing really good.
We'll also bring in Talking Cherries. Sammy, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad.
We'll bring a fourth one in to start with then. We'll bring in Martin. I think first time on the channel, Martin. Probably not the best, not the greatest game to come in on, but how you doing, mate?
Well, upset about that. I think most of us probably feeling it. Just, yeah.
Let's start with it then, Daniel. Was you excited for the game leading up to it, and did you feel positive that Bournemouth could do it today?
I was really positive. I was more positive than our championship games. I don't know, I was just so positive. But there's nothing I can really be mad about. But the reason I was so positive is when I was younger, I always grew up not to like Southampton because I was taught it was our derby. So I was super positive and I was wrong.
When the lineups were released, Sammy, we got it right on the match preview. I think that's the first time. I think we were quite happy to see that lineup, although those players did give a shift in on Tuesday. Maybe that confidence we were looking would come out early doors.
Yeah, I know, it's a bit weird, wasn't it? Like, it was a team we all kind of wanted, really. But yeah, I don't know what happened between Tuesday and Saturday, eh? I think that's why we were so confident. If we hadn't played well Tuesday, I think we all would have been a bit like, well, whatever, let's see what happens. But because we were so good Tuesday night, I'm pretty sure we all thought, oh, we're definitely going to bring it. FA Cup, something to fight for. But obviously they didn't want it. So, so we're not moving on.
2 wins in 17, Martin, for Southampton. I mean, we're very inconsistent, but did you fancy us today before kickoff?
I did, yeah. But yeah, again, I think it's that thing where we had such a good performance Tuesday. Everyone's like, yeah, we've done it. And then all of a sudden, I think bar the first 20 minutes, we just didn't, like Simon said, we just didn't look up for it. As soon as that goal went in, that was it. Individual mistakes, I think, yet again, cost us the game, if anything.
What players were you looking to ignite Bournemouth today, Daniel? Who's you looking to take hold of the game and try and win us the game?
So I saw Billing, then I saw Solanke, but the players that really made me thought we might win this were the Anthony and Kelly. Wait, I always Gavin Kilkenny.
Yeah.
Those 2 players actually gave me confidence because you can see they were like the hardest players in the pitch.
First 10 minutes then, Sammy, we thought we were 1-0 down. Now, last season, a VAR went to get against us when we scored through Sam Surridge, and we'd end up losing, and that sort of contributed towards our relegation. But when that VAR was overturned, did you feel like this might be our day today?
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to draw a positive, VAR was on our side today, weren't they? It's just
Twice.
we weren't on our side today, so we should have done better, especially everyone was pretty deflated when it went in. And of course, when VAR said no goal, we're like, okay, we're still in this, we can do this. But that sooner went downhill, didn't it? So, especially with Saints being on such poor form at the moment, like in the league, that's why But then maybe our players were like, oh, they're playing rubbish. We're bound to win after the way we played Tuesday night. You really don't know what gets inside their heads, do you?
Martin, you said that there were individual mistakes. It's one I know we've defended badly at times this year, but that was a poor performance in defence or defending as a team. I mean, can you put your finger on it?
No, I don't think anyone can. I mean, it's not like it's been a one-off game. It's been the whole season. I mean, I don't think we mind individual errors like every so often, but it's one every 2 games for some reason. I don't know why this whole playing out from the back. I don't know. It seems to be every game or 2 we make a mistake, and yet again, it's cost us yet again.
Martin, we move on then. An international break. Some players going away for internationals. I mean, do you think we can? I think we've got Middlesbrough next on the 1st of April when we come back. You're hoping that we can hit the ground running and try and get in those playoffs?
I hope so. I mean, I'm hoping he gives the youngsters a chance now, because I know with the international break, I mean, it's 2 days turnaround from when they come back to the game on Saturday. I hope he gives these youngsters a chance, because they deserve it. I mean, Anthony came on and looked lively, so did Kilkenny. So I'm hoping it probably won't happen. We know it's not going to happen, but I just hope he sees a bit of sense and says, "Right, I need to rest these players and give these youngsters a go." I mean, can't lose anything. So,
Sammy, as I said, coming back for that, I mean, what are you expecting to see from the team? I mean, we've got no excuses now. There's no extra game in the FA Cup. It's all on Championship. 9 games to go.
You just don't know what team's going to turn up on the pitch, do you? Well, it's going to be the same players, but you don't know what attitude and they're going to play with, and that's the main problem, isn't it? No one can put their finger on what's going wrong, because every time we're just, it just seems to be the players' attitude, or maybe it isn't. I mean, what is it? What can we put it down to? So, but they really need to put up some fight now. But to be honest, I'm not sure I want to make the playoffs. I'm not sure I want to make the Premiership. Like, it's going to be ultra embarrassing next season, isn't it? If we go to the Prem and play anything like we're playing this season, it's just going to just be rubbish.
We'll mix it up in just a moment then. Daniel, final thoughts. I mean, who can we rely on from here on in to try and get us to the playoffs and try and finish the season successfully?
This one might be very shocking, but I think it's all up to the players that don't play. Like, I feel like Jaden Anthony, if he starts maybe next to Solanke, we could be scoring a lot of goals. So I think he and Solanke up top and maybe keep everyone the same might help us a little bit more. Because I feel like, I don't know, I just seen Anthony today. He looked amazing. I just was blown out of how good he was today.
Daniel, thank you for coming on. Keep smiling. We'll chat to you on Twitter and see you on YouTube. All right.
Okay. Bye, guys.
See you soon. Martin, been such a tough season for us. Relegated last year. Eddie went. A few months later, JT went. We then thought, oh, maybe this is our highlight of the season. The FA Cup semi-final goes on. Looking for it in our history. We got to get something. I need something out of this season just to finish it off.
Yeah, like I said before, I think just give these youngsters a go. I mean, 9 games to go. I think I was watching the watch along. I mean, we haven't even won 3 games in a row. I think we're like the only team we're expecting to win. We haven't even done it. So I just think blood the youngsters now. I think get this ready for next season. We need something for next season to look forward to. And I think just blood them, just get these youngsters on, get their minutes, and then go for next season.
Martin, great to have you on for the first time in Cherries Red Army. Thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Yeah,
have a good
cheers,
weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You too.
Yeah, Sammy, closing thoughts then today. I'm sure you were really excited when you woke up. Sunny. I don't know if the sun was shining where you were, but I think we were all quite positive.
It was. I went out for a really nice walk. Had to rush home to make it home for kickoff. And then I think everyone was really up for it. Everyone thought that we might pull something out the bag. And losing's one thing, but playing badly is another, isn't it?
Thank you for coming on, Sammy. Keep up all the good work you're doing for Talking Cherries, and we'll see you on Cherries Red Army soon. See you soon.
See you soon.
Right, let's get a few new guests in, and let's bring some people in who might not be as positive. Who knows? But we'll see what we've got. Let's bring the next one in. Is Aaron? How you doing, Aaron?
Hi, Kirk. You all right?
Not too bad. And we'll also bring in John. How you doing, John?
All right, Kurt, not too bad.
thank you for coming. And we'll also bring in Dan. How you doing, Dan?
As good as I can be, I guess.
Dan, you hear me?
I can, yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to try and show it on the screen in a minute, but let's go right back to the start then, Aaron. Lineups were released. No shock really there, but your feelings before the game when they were dropped from both teams?
Yeah, no shocks. It's quite obvious. Pearson in for Jeff, Rowe kept his position and the junior out. I had no choice really, I guess. The team kind of picked itself. And I did think, one bit of hope would be that they were playing a 2 in centre midfield and we had a 3, so I thought we might dominate the ball. But I certainly wasn't as hopeful as some people before the game. I'm just realistic and seen it too many times before.
Dan, did you have a little bit of hope that the FA Cup semi-final for the first time in Bournemouth's history was going to happen today?
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? You have that little bit of optimism as a fan. It's just crushed. It's just, I think we got completely schooled by Southampton. Completely. I mean, they are the better team ultimately, but they've been in some horrific form recently, goal scoring especially. They just completely outplayed us, made us look terrible. And we don't help ourselves when we try and play out from the back. Like, we can't do what City does. Like, we don't have the players, and it's the amount of times I've seen this season where we're giving the ball to a fullback and they've gone backwards, and it always leads to trouble when they get into that corner. Everyone pushes up, all the opposition pushes up, and it always leads into trouble. But it just worries me, because let's say we do manage to jam playoffs and we do go up somehow. Woodgate surely can't continue. Like, we would get destroyed in the Premier League. We'd do what Sheffield United were doing if we got to the Premier League, if not worse. Like, it just goes to show.
Well, it's funny you make that point, Dan. So Nikki in the chat, thank you for comment. She went, hopefully our players now realise they're not as good as they think they are. John, we all want Premier League, obviously. But do you want to watch this team in the Premier League next season, if we're being completely honest?
Well, not this team, no. I mean, it's the disappointing thing that, because I think I agree with Aaron, I was optimistic, probably not as much as other people, because in mind, the fact that we beat Swansea wasn't really, that was an indicator of one step towards recovery. It wasn't an indicator that we're suddenly back on form, because Swansea were one of the worst teams we played all season. And Southampton, as much as their form in the league is awful, is diabolical, they still beat Arsenal and Wolves in the FA Cup to get this far. They are not mugs. So the disappointing thing isn't that we lost. The disappointing thing is the players just didn't look like they turned up, just at all. And I think there's most of those players you'd struggle to give more than a 5 or a 4. And some in particular, likes of Solanke and Stacey, just had some of the poorest games I've seen them have in a while. The Cameron Carter-Vickers was just a little bit less than he usually is, and he was still probably the best player we had. Steve Cook obviously made the slip that you just don't expect. I mean, but the team in general, like you say, this isn't a team that's going to do well enough in the Prem if we get there. The only thing is, I would say that just getting to the Premier League, if we can get there, the one thing that would do is at least make sure the coffers are a little bit more secure, and also this training ground that we've got, not even a half finished, isn't going to get finished unless we get back into the Prem. I think that's pretty clear based on the kind of money we're going to have available. So I wouldn't want to see us go up and then see us become one of the worst teams in Premier League history. But I would still, rather have more coverage for Bournemouth, more money, more presentation, more coverage. Just maybe not coverage of us losing every week if we play like that.
Aaron, break down this defending then. I'd hate to say it's Sunday League football, because I don't want to put people down that play Sunday League football, but that, for me, defending, we were at 6s and 7s. Jack Stacey for the first goal couldn't get his body sorted out. We were getting unlocked every opportunity Southampton had. They were second balls. I mean, Redmond reacted after a shot off the post, and I think just all over, mate. Just defending was just as bad as it's been all season at times.
I mean, firstly, they were clearly targeting Rico. They saw him as a weak link. They were playing long balls over the top. The goal, which was offside, he got caught for that. He got caught just before that. He gave the ball away for the first goal. Just a lazy pass, as he's done throughout the whole season. Just lazy pass, giving the ball away, and they break and score. Yes, Jack Stacey slipped. Second goal, where was he? I mean, it was there throwing on the right hand side, and suddenly, when Redmond was running through against Steve Cook 1-on-1, Rico was the right hand side of Cook, with 10 seconds to go. So I'm not all blaming it on Diego Rico, but those first 2 goals, he just went AWOL. Whether we'd have done that if Lloyd Kelly was there, I don't know. But John's right, that there was just the worrying thing for me was not that Southampton were a better team than us, because we know they are. It was just no fight, no passion, no nothing. It was just a nothing performance. That's all I can say. It was a nothing performance. Actually, the only player I thought, 2 players, I thought first half Danjuma was lively, but again, he was all about Arnie Danjuma putting on a show for whoever was watching. And I actually thought, to be fair to him, Phil Billing tried his heart out throughout the game, and no, he got pushed back into his favourite position in the 2 for the last half an hour. But he still gave it everything, and I thought he looked like he was trying, but it was just ugh. And the thing, and we've said it before, and what we think is going to cost us promotion this season, and what clearly showed today is we, without a number 9, we just didn't look like scoring. We're just not causing many problems. Dom is just. Dom is either isolated, or when he does finally win the ball and give everything and shake off someone, there's no one for him to play to. I mean, it's criminal that we have not got a goal scorer at this football club, a 25 a season goal scorer. And if John's right as well, if we manage to go up, we have to get a goal scorer in, because it's just crying out. We just didn't look like scoring all game. Southampton have been leaking goals to they lost to Brighton in midweek. They've won 2 out of 17, and they strolled throughout that game, and that was what was so disappointing.
Dan, I stood behind that comment since day one, since Wilson walked out the door, that we haven't got enough goals in us. But I then get a comment to me saying that we've got 3 players above in double figures, which I think not many teams have. So I'm behind Aaron in his comment, to be honest with you, but where are you?
Yeah, I do agree with you in terms of, I think that I've got to stay optimistic. I think at the start of the season, everyone wanted Dom to do really well. We wanted him to be that striker, and I think that a lot of it was his confidence. That's why I was, I think, a bit more optimistic, because when he came in, he was really, really poor. He didn't do what he should have done. But I think as soon as he got that goal at Leicester, he got a brace in the same game. It just gave him a little bit of confidence. He thought, okay, he's got that confidence now. He could believe in himself a bit more. Will he push on? Will he? And maybe he will get 20 goals a season in the Championship. Maybe he's more of a Championship striker. That's more of his level. But yeah, no, it's obviously Stan's been on all penalties and free kicks. I think half of those goals must be from free kicks and penalties, surely. I think, and Arnie's. I think we've been the team that's always scored a lot of goals and then they've been distributed. But I think that it's ultimately hurt us that we don't have that one player that is prolific and that will get that, will bag 20 goals. They will finish everything that's given to them, like an Ivan Toney who's done well, like a Timo Pukki for Norwich, and that's part of the reason why they've done really well this season. I think this squad is. We need to go for another rebuild. I think that we'll be saying it. I think at the start of this season, that we needed a rebuild for this team, and I think we need another rebuild. I just don't. Me personally, I know a lot of other Bournemouth fans didn't think Woodgate was the answer. I still don't think he's the answer. I didn't think he was ever the correct appointment, and I don't think he can. And the worrying thing is, if I think that if he gets given a new contract next season, I'm almost like. It's just not. It's like, are we wanting to progress as a club then if we're giving him a new contract? Are we really obviously the dream scenario, I was speaking to my dad about it, would be that Howe comes back. How realistic is that? Probably not very likely. It would be the dream scenario, but I just don't see it happening. And we needed someone to come in that had that experience at a Championship level, getting a team from the Championship to the Premier League. He doesn't have the experience. Same with Jason Tindall, and I don't know why those were the go-to appointments. It confuses me, but it's just worrying to see, because who are we going to lose now? I saw something that Adam Smith might want to leave end of the season, and he's going to leave. Who else is going to leave? Arnie Danjuma, he's been doing really well for us, and he's going to. A lot of Premier League clubs are going to be after him, and it's really worrying where this club is because we just don't play well enough. It was the players weren't motivated, the tactics weren't right. It seems like one problem emerges every time we feel like we solve a problem. And Swansea, we were good, but Swansea were terrible. Let's be honest here. Swansea were really, really bad compared to their stands this season, but it's just worrying where the club's at the moment. I really fear for next season. Really, really do worry. So,
John, it can be quite easy to say we need a rebuild. We're going to be a parachute second season parachute team if we don't get promoted. They haven't continued the football ground for whatever reason. I don't know the club's finances, and we probably would have been an appealing club getting relegated from the Prem. But looking at us from this season and a player that we might try and approach, how easy is that rebuild in all of those things that I'm talking about?
Well, the thing is that Bournemouth as a club historically have done quite well from bringing players from lower leagues and then, whether gradually or immediately bringing them in and making them better. Harry Arter is obviously probably the biggest example coming from Woking for £4,000. But, Mark Pugh was brought from, I'm not sure whether it was lower league at the time, lower than us at the time, but Mark Pugh obviously was a cheaper option we had. And, Ewan O'Kane, Sean McDonald. Well, no, we were to Swansea, but it's not an impossible rebuild at all, assuming that we definitely go into some kind of rebuild phase. Now, I totally agree that should we not stay up, there are a number of players that won't stay. So Asmir Begovic will definitely look to move on. Adam Smith is out of contract, and that's why he'd definitely be moving on. You've got Arnaud Danjuma, who probably would get a Premier League side, or maybe even go back to Belgium or another sort of not top tier European side. There's a number of good players. David Brooks, I think, probably would certainly be looking to move on. But it's not as if we don't have a good few youngsters coming through and a couple that we've sold for no good reason that we couldn't have actually sort of started building around. I do think we need to be a little bit careful about going overboard on how bad that performance was. I totally agree that, as I said before, we didn't turn up and it was disappointing. But, Swansea was a good opportunity as a stepping stone back towards a decent bit of form. We play a very big game against Middlesbrough next because they're another team that are looking to go above us. But it's us versus Reading essentially at this point now to get into the top six, and we definitely have an easier run in. So what what Woodgate hope does is just say, look, we just forget about it. It was a bad game. It was a really bad game. There's a couple of players I put on Twitter. I want Stacey to really look at how bad his performance was because he made a lot of poor decisions, giving away stupid free kicks near our own box, going into tackles he didn't need to, making passes he shouldn't have done, particularly for the third goal. That's the kind of pass that's on so often early on in games, but late on in games when we're being pressed high, never into the middle of your own pitch like that. Just that kind of thing. Rico, I agree, wasn't great, but he wasn't helped because he didn't have support from Danjuma. Look, there's a lot that could be looked at and a lot that we can just say it was a bad day at the office. Solanke, in particular, is a player that's missed too many big chances this season. He's missed 12, I believe, which is the fourth highest in the league. That's what he massively needs to work on. Our chance creation isn't as good as it should be. It's not just the strikers, it's the midfielders and the fullbacks that aren't providing enough support. All told, there's a lot to improve on. And if we don't go up this season, it's not going to be easy to rebuild, but there's still enough players around that we can definitely make a good, stable team that we can then look to progress with.
Yeah, I think John's right. I think it's easy to go overboard from today. As far as the wing positions go, you're playing against two exceptionally good fullbacks in Walker Peters and Bertrand, and we're not going to come up against them in the next 9 games. And I think we're going to be fingers crossed. There's no injuries in the international break, which always worries me. But we're gonna go into the next 9 games with Lerma back, Brooks back, Stanislas back, Smith back, Kelly back, pretty much everyone back then for those last 9 games. And you're right, Jonathan Woodgate's got to just turn around and say, draw a line under it, forget it. We're 2 points off. I mean, it's nothing. Having said, we could be quite 5 points off again if we lose, if Reading win today, but then we'll have a game in hand, and Barnsley play Reading next week when we play Middlesbrough. So for me, it's in our hands, and I think we've got to give it everything we got. We worry about next season. Let's worry about what happens in the Premier League. Let's hope that's an issue we have to worry about. And then obviously, clearly we'll sign some players, and some players won't leave. But I'm not going to worry about next season until this season's done and dusted.
We all find a way as Bournemouth fans to get over a bad day at the office, and Kerry's resorted to consuming 3 chocolate hobnobs and pouring a glass of fizz. So enjoy that, Kerry. And if that's how you get over Bournemouth, well done. And I'll be looking for a similar way after this. Dan, what concerns me in the next 9 games between now and the end of the season, if we get to the playoffs, where there'll be another 3, is why don't we play for 90 minutes enough in games?
It's been one of our biggest problems this season. Is we will be good in patches of the game. We'll think, oh yeah, we've got that quality. We played really well there, and then we'll put out a poor second half display, or we'll be good for a 30-minute patch, and then we'll be poor. We haven't been good consistently enough for 90 minutes, and it's one of the big reasons why we've dropped so many points and we haven't had a run of wins this season, because we can't seem to put a good 90 minutes together consistently. There's always been little problems, little individual errors, and with all what we're saying, is it the team? Does the team feel like it's a lot of individuals rather than a team collective performance? You speak about players getting isolated, players not linking up like they should do, Danjuma not linking up with Rico, which is not helping. Do you think there's a little bit of players playing as individuals rather than teams playing as a collective? With Ryan Fraser, remember last season when he admitted it, that he was playing for individually. Do you think there are a few players that maybe are wanting a move, that are trying to play and show what they're about? And I think that you made some good points there, that I think there are enough good players that we can rebuild without making loads of signings. I'm a massive fan. Every Bournemouth fan's a fan of Surridge, because he works his socks off every single game he plays. And I think Anthony's got some really good potential. Kilkenny's, when he's come on, has looked like he's got some potential. And I think a lot of it is perhaps building players up that from the lower leagues, getting some players, some youngsters in, and building them up to that quality, rather than players that should be Premier League quality not performing to the quality they are. I think that a big reason why we went up when we did is, I've said this before, and why Barnsley may go up, is because a lot of those players maybe aren't quite on paper good enough to be in the Premier League, but that, it drives them on. They're constantly improving under a manager that believes in them and a system that works. And why we went up, a lot of those players that you look at them and think, are they good enough to play in the Premier League? But they all thought, oh yeah, this could be our chance to play in the Premier League here. This could be our one opportunity to get there. And that sort of drove them on. And are there too many egos in this dressing room that think, I should be playing in the Premier League? I should already be there. I want that move. Is that the case? We don't know. There's so many unanswered questions at the moment. But yeah, as you said, we've got to think about this season, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a problem when we get to the Premier League. What do we do then? But at this point, it does seem slightly unlikely, but we can be optimistic.
Aaron, it's just a lack of energy at times for me. We had a week's break, didn't we, before we played Barnsley, and everyone was like, well, Jonathan Woodgate can get the players in the training ground. He can work with them for the first time, and we lost to a Barnsley team. This time around, we played Tuesday, we played in confidence, and we were like, well, maybe that will help us, that we have a quick turnaround and go back into a match where Southampton have had to sit on a 2-1 loss versus Brighton. It confuses me. This is where I'm at. I don't have enough confidence that we can get enough points. What have we got? 27 to get. I think we need at least 17.
At least, I would say. I think we probably need 5 or 6 wins. It seems to be this team, the first goal is so important in the match. I know everyone says that for every team. It's always the first goal is always important. It really is for us, because we were in that game to the 37th minute, and then just the heads dropped. We were 1-0 down, and because of kind of our lack of goal scorer, I just felt like we were never going to get back in the game. In the games we've been 1-up against Swansea, they have to then come and play, and then we can then do our stuff. Against Watford, we managed to hold on. Against Rotherham and Wycombe, we managed to hold on. There are obviously our games we scored first and we didn't, but I just feel it's so important for us to score that first goal. So we've got to go into these games, and tell ourselves we're not going to be playing, and it pains me to say it, we're not going to be playing teams as good as Southampton for the next 9 games, maybe Norwich, but realistically, we know we've got the ability. It's just the consistency, and I just don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, because I'm a massive fan of Jack Stacey. I think he's a great player. He was just shocking today, and Carter Vickers has been excellent, and all of them have shown this season that they can be good players. So I just don't know what it is, but come 2 weeks' time, I'll be optimistic again. And the Reading losing the other night has really given me. I think we will catch them. I think we will catch them. I think we will get in the playoffs. What happens then is anyone's guess.
As I've said, John, it has been inconsistent, and have we actually overachieved making the quarterfinals on reflection?
I think if you look at a game-by-game basis, I don't think so, because we were the better team in all of the games that we won. So that's at least comforting to say that, we've sort of reached the pinnacle. I think that we reached as far as we could have ever expected to reach. We've done better this year than we've done in the last 60. So it's that's at least comforting to know. But yeah, against other sides, then there's a good chance that we would have got knocked out by a number of different Premier League sides or a few Championship ones if we come up against them in the way that we played today. But I mean, when I think back to how we were playing early on in the season, even the game we played in the Carabao Cup against Man City, where we made quite a few changes and we had players like Offerbor at right centre back, there was actually a confidence and there was an effortlessness to the way we passed. We actually passed triangles around Manchester City's press with ease in that game. I was so impressed with Offerbor in particular in that game, and yet that's disappeared. That hasn't been present in our matches for months.
He's disappeared.
Yeah, well, that's true. He has, but that's not through his fault, I don't think.
No.
But I think, as much as I feel as though at times it completely just devolved into, we've always done it this way, so we might as well continue it. Even last season, the last few seasons, our playing out from the back, it doesn't look like we're trained to know how to play out from the back half the time. Sometimes we do, but most of the time, it's the easiest way to press us is as soon as the ball goes to Rico or Stacey, the entire midfield and their forward line just press onto us. And we never get out of that with two passes, which you can do. You can easily do if you know how to set yourself up. But it doesn't look like we've actually worked on it. So we always lose the ball there. I mean, that Stacey inside pass to Wilshere that he failed for the third goal, that's the pass that normally should be the one to help you get out of that spot. But it wasn't on. He tried it when it doesn't look like the team's worked on it. It's just, I don't want to go too much into the whole just general inabilities for us to build up from the back at all, because in the end, I think player for player, they didn't turn up today apart from one or two. I would say Jack Wilshere impressed me with his work rate and the fact that he lasted 90 minutes and some of the tackles he was diving into, he looked like he wanted it. He was about the only one. So look, there's a hell of a lot that needs to be improved on off that performance, but if you just look more at the Swansea game and look at how we played in that one, then that's something that we need to look more as to how to build on. But we're going to be the team that's going to have to push on and try and take the game to Middlesbrough in our next game. And that's where we have typically failed. We've actually tended to do better when it's more on us to counter it, or when we've got more of a counter-attacking impetus. Middlesbrough defended pretty well against us in the first time round. We've lacked creativity at times this season. We might have a couple of players back fit after the break. Lloyd Kelly, seemingly, David Brooks. I'm not sure whether Junior will be, but it's all about the league now. We've got no distractions and we've got no excuses, and hopefully we'll improve off that.
So the problem we've got is that I listened to Jonathan Woodgate on the official podcast, and he was saying he's basically told us not to play out from the back because not that he doesn't trust us, but it's just because we're getting caught too often. The problem we've got in that is if we're going to cut that out and start going a bit more direct, when you've got one lone striker who's Dom, this ball's going to keep coming straight back. So you can't do that either. So that's a bit of a dilemma because we don't want to be faffing around at the back with it. Yeah.
We were looking for a Cherry double today. The football team let us down, but we've also got Chris Billam fighting. He's a Cherry fan, and we hope that he can turn in a performance tonight. So good luck to Chris Billam. And there are some comments in the chat for Chris. So if you're watching that fight tonight, hopefully Chris Billam can get a Cherry win from that point of view. Right, I'll keep you guys in for a minute. I'll continue to keep you guys in. And I'm going to bring someone else in. Let's bring Steve in. How you doing, Steve? You're a defender, I believe. So, I mean, how do you feel about that?
I'm not defending them today. And you know what? I'm sick of you lot giving me all this positivity and hope and things, and that just gets dashed every time. No, it wasn't great, was it, from a defensive point of view today, mate? It was mistake after mistake after mistake, and we got punished. Well, we should have been punished a few more times if it wasn't for VAR saving us.
I mean, Jack Stacey was at, as I said, 6s and 7s for that first goal. I mean, it ended up on Jack Stacey's side, but he couldn't decide which side he wanted to turn on and actually try and, block the ball coming through or stop the attacker running behind him.
Well, the thing for me with that is he kind of didn't know whether to go to help out Carter Vickers or stay with his man, and he did. In the end, he just got tied up, did none of those, and just fell over. I mean, what he's got to do there is he's got to trust in Carter Vickers and stay with the threat, which was Gineppo at that point. It was Gineppo, wasn't it? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and he did neither. He just got himself in a, like you say, 6s and 7s, tripped over his own feet, and it just looked awful, didn't it?
Dan, there was a time, I can't remember what game it was under Jason Tyndall, where there's a camera shot of him just like nodding his head in disappointment. And it felt like Woodgate was a bit like that at times today. And I don't know about you, I think all fans are different, but I like to see a little bit more passion. I go back to the Barnsley game where Ishmael was like kicking every ball for them. And I assume even when they're in losing positions, he's doing everything in the 90 minutes like he's on the pitch. And I don't know, I just feel with Woodgate that maybe I just want to see a little bit more, especially when you've been that bad, to try and get some energy on the pitch.
Yeah, you raise a fair point. I think that you've seen it in spells where he's shown that passion, mainly when we've just scored. I think that, is he maybe, if we're seeing that, the lack of, passion on the sideline when we aren't winning or when we need a goal, is that a reflection of behind the scenes as well? I don't know. From what I understand, he's a bit more sort of, get into them. Oh yeah, this is what we have to do. We have to be a bit more physical. We have to be a bit more direct, get into them. This, motivating him in that sense. Maybe Tyndall wasn't as good as that. Does he tactically know what he's doing as well? I don't know. I feel like he doesn't know how to develop the players as well. He hasn't had enough experience managing. But yeah, you do raise a fair point. I think when we have scored, when we have been winning, you can see that passion. But I feel like that needs to be throughout the game. You've got to look to your manager and think, and he's got to be providing that energy as well. He's got to be almost like that 12th man. So especially now without the crowds, it's so important for that. So yeah, I think that's a fair point to raise.
Steve, we've talked about some of these players and whether they've got enough talent and energy and aggression or whatever they need to get some consistency going. Probably going to need to win 5, 6, 7 games in the next 9. Can they do it? And if they can do it and we can win the playoffs, what sort of changes are you looking for, like, to go into the Prem? Because as I said, I don't really think I want to watch this team in the Prem.
No, after that, it's a bit of a worrying thought, isn't it? I think someone's mentioned earlier it'd be like a Sheffield United if we carry on into the Prem like this. Moving forward, I think we have got the players and we can put a run together. We've shown what we can do at times, and it's just trying to galvanise that into into every game we play going forward. I mean, we know as much as the next person that we can devastate any team in this league on our day. But too many times this season we've just not turned up to games. We've almost had an air of we've got this in the bag before we've even got out on the pitch, and that's a scary place to be, because it can, especially in this league, it can just chew you up and spit you out. And we found that, and I think moving forward, into next season, the fullbacks for me, I'm not so much. Stacey had a bit of a mare today, but I think there's a player in there, and I think he's still young. He can develop a bit. Rico is the one that I'm massively worried about. I just don't get him at all. Every time he just makes the wrong decisions. He just ball watches so often. It's basic defending. He can't seem to get it right, and he's not really offering much of a threat going forward, and hasn't done for a little while this season. We need a striker, definitely, 100%. That's something we've, as you've said and alluded to many times, Brentford have got one, Norwich have got one. Where's ours? We haven't got that, go getter. You can rely on him to get a goal like we had with Wilson. We just haven't got it, and that's gonna. I know we've had Danjuma and Stans chipping in with goals, but you can't rely on them to do that all the time. You've got to have a main focal point who's going to chip in and create. Don does the creating bit. He just doesn't chip in with enough goals for me. So it's the same 2 positions I think I might have brought up at the transfer window stage, where I think we struggle with that left back position and a striker.
Our tag, John. Sorry, they went down the wrong hole.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask what hole.
Our tag is anything is possible, John. Do you feel this team is in it together?
That is a good question. I think at times you can look at him and say yes. I think when you look at the way that they've reacted to goals at times, you can say that they definitely are. And then sometimes you sort of think, maybe not. I mean, I don't know whether that's partly to do with they're being told to. I mean, the clubs have been told the players should react to goals in not quite such a huggy way with the pandemic going on. But I don't know. I think there's players that definitely feel as though it's more about them, more about themselves than it is about the team. I think that's pretty obvious. But then, I think you're going to have that with any side. I think it's rare that you're going to be in a situation where you don't have that. I think our promotion season 6 years ago was one of the few times where there really wasn't one player that made it seem like it was all about themselves. I think the amount of goals that Callum Wilson got, he could have done that, but he didn't seem like it. But then I also feel as though the lack of a crowd is certainly something that means that there doesn't look like there's as much passion on the pitch, I think, in most games. I think it depends on the team, but I would say today the lack of a crowd will have had a huge effect on the way the players performed. Solanke early on took a poor touch and failed to capitalise on what could have been a 2-on-1 situation from a counter-attack. Begovic's first goal kick flew wide left. Just a few things early on that just made you think the day wasn't necessarily going to go brilliantly, and then it didn't carry on much better from there. There's definitely a couple of players that I would say are leaders, but we don't have that many. And I think that's sort of like a general thing about football is that the number of leaders in teams just isn't quite there anymore. But Billing, Danjuma, Solanke, Riquelme, none of those front four are leaders. And Solanke could be, if he played well, he could lead by example, but it wasn't his day today. I think tactically it was mentioned before that I was a little bit worried about how Woodgate was looking to set up the high press, and it sort of caught us out in the first goal. Pearson was the guy that was pressing high from the double pivot, and I just didn't understand that, because it meant that it was Wilshere that was going up quite often against a player like Redmond, who was the player that I was most worried about before the game, and it turned out that unfortunately it was exactly the case, because he kept dropping deep and Pearson was too high up the pitch most of the time. At least his substitutions that he made were attacking. He brought on Surridge and Anthony, who I think needs to get a little bit more game time. And then he put on Mepham for Rico, which I don't understand.
It's what you need when you're chasing the game, John.
I don't understand what that change was. It's just
I can only think it was because he just was like, Rico, you're so poor, just get off the pitch.
Anyone come on.
I mean, yeah, but it's just like it completely threw off any balance we had. Any possible balance we had, it got thrown off. And just like most of our attacks were coming down the left-hand side early on anyway. And great, we just completely nullify any ability we have to attack down on the left-hand side. That's fine. So yeah, it was a terrible day for a number of reasons. And I don't know, I want to just forget about today. I really do. But there's this is the culmination of what we can kind of expect if this team doesn't turn up, against some of the better teams in the Championship, let alone that if we went into the Premiership. Just a comment on the manager. Do you think if we get promoted that Woodgate would be given a contract extension?
I can't see it. No. I mean, I was gonna come back to that, because I think you're talking about the players have to take responsibility. And I don't blame Jonathan Woodgate, because I've said so many times that, why would he not take the job? And I think he's trying his hardest. But we've failed twice this season to make the correct managerial appointments, and I think that's going to come home to roost. Dan made a point about Eddie Howe earlier. For me, there's not a chance in hell of Eddie Howe coming back to his club while Neil Blake is still there. But it's interesting about Eddie Howe, because I don't know what you guys think about this, but he's obviously not going to get a job now to the end of the season. Then that'll be a year out of football. If a job still doesn't come along he fancies, he can't. He doesn't want to become like an Alan Kirbishy because he's too late to come back into the game. His heart is with us. He's refreshed now. He's taken a break, and maybe I'm in cloud cuckoo land here, but I just wish Max would just get rid of Blake and Hughes and say to Eddie, whoever you want, come back in and you're refreshed now and come back to the club you clearly didn't want to leave in the first place. That is cloud cuckoo land, I'm sure, but if Eddie's not going to do that, then Palace is the only job potentially I think he could go for in the Premier League and get. But other than that, where's he going to go?
I think he might possibly go abroad. He's been over looking at coaches before abroad. I don't see why he wouldn't try and increase his repertoire as a manager by getting some.
See him doing it. I just can't see him. He's such a home bird. I think he'd struggle.
Yeah, I think he didn't want to go Newcastle, Burnley, did he? Because obviously
I think he wouldn't want to go further north than London, let alone anywhere else. I just can't see that with him, which is why I'm thinking, realistically, I'd love to see him at a Spurs or an Arsenal, but I just think he'll ever be given a chance there. But realistically, where else is he going to go? And just come home. Just come home.
It's an interesting step, a big step. I think wherever he goes, his next step is critical for Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm going to switch it up. Thanks for coming on. Just 10 days into our next game, is this easy for you now to think, well, I can just forget about it for 10 days and get on with what I got to do, or does it make it even longer for you?
I feel like with all the international breaks, it's weird not having, especially with the Championship, where games are coming thick and fast, not having games for so long. You're like, it's been forever. You do miss it, and then you get to the game and it's a terrible performance, and you're like, what was I waiting all that time for? But yeah, no, I think we'll all miss it still. I think but it'll be a good time for the players to rest. Obviously, some injuries coming back, so hopefully come back Middlesbrough, get a result, and we can push on from there.
Cheers, coming on, Dan.
No worries. Cheers for having me.
See you soon.
Cheers, Dan.
Fine. Closing comments, John.
Bring on Middlesbrough, basically.
And Neil Warnock, by the way.
Yeah, well, we got a draw against them last time. That was away, but obviously it was a different stage in our season. It was this different stage in their season as well. Yeah, I mean, look, there's not too much that I really want to take from that game there. I'd rather the majority of the players just forgot about it and just maybe tried to think back to what got them going against Swansea and the kind of play that they need to put in to make sure they get into the playoffs for this season, and then it's kind of a lottery in the playoffs. But if we do get in, we're one of the form teams. It's how often is it that it's a team that you didn't expect to get in there, gets in on good form and goes up, which means it's obviously Barnsley that's going to get promoted, obviously. I don't know. We'll just see what happens the last 9 games. The players need to put it in for themselves and for the fans, and we'll see what happens. And just as a point, Eddie Howe, if I was him, I'd take the Celtic job, but he won't do it.
No. Cheers, coming on, John.
Cheers.
Speak soon. Aaron, you just sound like you just want this season to be over.
No. I 2 things for me today. Why I might have been a minority here. Why I'm probably not as gutted. I mean, I'm gutted we lost, but I'm not as gutted as some people. Number one, I don't live in the area anymore, so I haven't got any friends who support Southampton at all. I've got far more Watford friends. So, and secondly, for me, and I said to my boys as well, the fact that we wouldn't be guaranteed a day out at Wembley in the cup semi-final where we could all be there tempered it for me, if I'm being honest. Of course, I'd love to have won today, and love nothing more than for us to win. But I think I would have been doubly gutted if it was a normal season and we would have got to Wembley and we'd have had the day out and everything that's involved with that. And so I'm just want to get back to the league now. That's the bread and butter. That's what's most important. And as John said, put a jawline under today, 2 weeks off, 9 games to go, and let's see what they deliver for us.
Cheers, coming on, Aaron. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Right, I'm going to keep you in for a moment, Steve. I'm just going to bring in another guest. Did a watch along today, a collaboration with Ollie. Please welcome Sam from Back of the Net. How you doing, Sam?
Very well, mate. I'm knackered.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Really hard.
While I'm trying to get over my side of going down the wrong hole, and I'm still trying to clear my throat. Let's give us 20 seconds for you guys in the chat. Keep commenting throughout. Here's just a 20-second break, and then we'll come back. We'll finish the show. Last segment. Looking very professional then today, your watch along. Sam, how did it go?
I'm not used to doing this stuff with things in both ears. I had a microphone pack next to me. I had all sorts of stuff that I'm really not used to. I had a lapel mic. It was really weird. There was like screens everywhere. Couldn't concentrate. And
did you have a runner coming on, like giving you a bit of mascara every day? Yeah, concealer.
I actually had to. No word of a lie. I actually took my own makeup just in case. Genuinely, I did. But no, I mean, it was hard to concentrate on, but in a way, I'm glad because it wasn't the prettiest of games. And I enjoyed it actually. It was a unique experience. I've done a couple of things like that before in like proper studios, and yeah, sadly the football though didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah, so when that first goal we thought went in for Southampton, a good goal to be fair, I thought, a diagonal, and then an own goal from Carter Vickers, but VAR would be on our side. And we spoke earlier in the show, Sam, that it went against us last season, like a lot of things. Did you think when that first one went in that didn't count, it was going to be our day?
It's funny how muscle memory works really, because once they'd scored, I didn't even think about VAR. And that's how I've been trained to think over the last, goodness knows how many months. And then the little icon displayed on screen. So just for context, we were watching and we didn't have any commentary at all because we just had some like crowd sounds. But so we didn't know what the commentators were saying. And then we see the little icon come on screen. It's like, oh yeah, VAR. I forgot about that. And then from the first replay, it was pretty clear that it was there. And at that point, obviously, we're delighted.
No more FA Cup then, Steve. As I said, no more distraction, 9 games to go. I mean, what are you hoping to see from this team going forward to the end of the season?
Well, I think like the lads have said already, we just need to draw a line under this today. And just, we all got our hopes up. It was all, the Southampton thing. And at the end of the day, we're playing a Premier League team and we haven't been playing that great anyway. Just draw a line on it. Under it and move on and focus on the job at hand, which is getting into those playoffs. We know we can do it. We can turn up against these teams in this league. We've shown it more than one occasion this season. I just don't. You just got to put it to bed and just say bad day at the office, move on.
Do you know how many points you think we might need, Sam, to get into those playoffs? I mean, teams have put a run together this season in the Championship, and they're not necessarily sitting at the top of the league, but we are going to have to put a serious run together.
We are, and I was chatting with Tom, and you look at most of the other teams in the top 6, at some point they've gone on a run that involves winning more than 2 games, and we haven't done that, which if we did get into the playoffs, I would feel as though we are very lucky. If we managed to somehow get promoted, then it would be a fraud of a season, really, because our performances just haven't warranted it. And yeah, we need to put together a run now. You look at what teams like Watford have been doing, Norwich, Brentford, even Barnsley. Lots of teams have had big runs, and we haven't at all. And that's what we need, a bit of consistency. I'm not sure how many points are needed, but all I can say is look back 2 seasons when, I've said this before, when Villa, they were in a worse position with us with 9 games to go, and they ended up getting promoted. We are we're not far away, but we need to put that performance today to bed and concentrate on all the good things that we did against Swansea. And hopefully with people like Lerma back, I think obviously people have you touched on this already, but I think Lerma, despite the fact he hasn't had brilliant games for AFC Bournemouth recently, he's not been a star performer. You see how effective he is, and without him, we are poorer for it. So hopefully he can come back, and some of our players that might have that instant impact could come back. I'm talking David Brooks, but David Brooks was the player that was supposed to do that last season, so I'm not going to hold out hope on that. But yeah, it just needs a run, and it needs them to be mentally switched on. So I certainly hope they forget about this performance today as soon as they can.
Sam, I've asked a couple of other guests this. So we go on the run then. We somehow make the playoffs and we get promoted. Richard Hughes sort of leads the club from bringing players in. I mean, would you want this team going into the Prem? Because it was a bit of a highlight to me how far away we potentially might be. Okay, it's 1 game, but it could be a highlight.
I'm not overly keen on. I certainly, Woodgate, I wouldn't want him in charge of the Premier League. Having no experience at all, I think I would like to be still getting rid of a lot of dead wood, even if we got promoted to the Premier League. Because I think even getting to the promised land, I don't think will guarantee that they'll up their game. I think we need that mentality of when Bournemouth were in the Premier League for the first couple of seasons with almost a bunch of overachievers, and have players of that ilk. Burnley seem to do it season after season, and they'll probably stay in the Premier League, again this season, we need players of that ilk, and realise the size of the club we are, and we need to attract those types of players that are just willing to work hard. And at the moment, I'm not seeing players that have got the industry to get us promoted at the moment anyway. So maybe this conversation's futile. I don't know.
Steve, closing comments then today, when we come back from the international break. I mean, at least we've got England to watch, of course.
Yeah.
Have we got San Marino? It's one of the games against San Marino as well.
I've no idea, to be honest. I've not been keeping up with the internationals, mate. So yeah, I just tune in if I can be asked. To be honest, that's where I've got with England of late. Closing comments. Yeah, well, we didn't show up, did we? It looked like you touched on a point earlier about the VAR. I thought at one point when that was disallowed, I think Jack got away with a bit of a dicey challenge. I thought, well, maybe we get the rub of the green today, but it wasn't to be. I think there was some mistake. That high press I didn't think worked with Pearson going. I thought it left a big hole for Redmond to exploit, which he did time and time again. Didn't cope with it. So just, things didn't work for us today. Draw a line on it, move on, concentrate on the league. We've still got a chance, a small chance, but it's in our hands. If we want it, we can get it.
Steve, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
Speak to you soon.
See you later, Sam.
Cheers, Steve. And the stuff that I do, because there's no other way to connect to the club, like this. But we all want to go back to games. Hopefully, it could be a playoff final, but I doubt it.
Not our day today then. Thank you for everyone who's joined us in the last hour. Chris Billam coming up later. Maybe he can put a smile on our face. A bit of a break, as we said. Internationals, we come back fighting on the 1st of April, I think, against Middlesbrough. Maybe, like Sam says, we'll have a little playoff run and it will finish the season off nicely. Look after yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your weekend from me and Sam. See you soon. Up with Cherries.